What is the craziest real-life plot twist story you have? When I was 5 years old, I remember going to a wedding reception for one of my friend's older sisters. I vaguely remember that it was scandalous that she was young, 18, just graduated HS, and he was much older. That's all I knew, and it didn't come up much in conversation with my friend or their family. 10 years later, I'm in high school on the debate team, just chatting with the coach about random stuff when we get to talking about the team before he was coach. He told me that before him, another teacher was the coach, who got kicked out for having a relationship with one of the students on the team. He told me the names and my jaw hit the floor. That was the wedding reception I was at. The husband of an elderly couple near me died about a year ago. The wife for most of her adult life had a pretty serious drinking habit, and his band kept her on track. A month or two after his death, she found someone new off the internet. He quickly moved in, but something wasn't right about him. He'd often be seen buying multiple bottles of vodka and whiskey and taking them home with him. He was doing this every 1 to 2 days. Anyway, soon after, the police came asking people in the local area to see if anyone had seen the elderly woman and her new partner, as they believed they had recently got married. This could be because if she was to die, her nice house would be left to him now. He kept buying alcohol for presumably her, until 2 police vans, an ambulance, and crime scene investigators were seen outside the house. No one has been seen in or around the house since. At first I thought he was trying to kill this poor woman off through her drinking habit, but got fed up and tried to murder her so he could have the house. But according to neighbors, she killed him to stop the apparent abuse he'd been putting her through. She is apparently in a secure unit now, where she will most likely stay. My father going through the U.S. citizenship process and finding out in his 40s that he is adopted. The 2007 Pepsi 400 at Daytona International Speedway. The date was July 7th, the 7th of July 07, and every commentator in NASCAR's Premier Series was speculating that Clint Bowyer, driver of the '07 Jack Daniels Chevrolet, was destined to win based purely on numeric superstition. At the end of the race, Bowyer did not win. However, he did finish 7th. My girlfriend of 2 years moved a couple hours away to go to school. We saw each other most weekends. The weekend before Valentine's Day we were together and it was great. The next weekend on V-Day I go to see her at her parents' home. I see through the window as I walk up to the house. Her and her fiancé are showing her parents an engagement ring. Edit additional plot twist as listed in below comments. They got married, and after 6 years she discovered his other wife and kids. He must have been a sweet talker, alright. Thank you all for the concern. This was 26 years ago. I'm doing fine. I was best friends with a neighbor kid growing up. He was always over at my house or I was at his. And I had a major crush on him pretty much since I was old enough to walk, but it never seemed like he liked me back or that he even noticed that I liked him, so we grew up. He started dating people and I was jealous as fuck over it. I started dating people while still pining over him. I figure he just sees me as a little kid. I was a year younger than him, or a little sister, and nothing will ever come out of it, so I try to put my feelings aside. Then when he turned 16, his family moved out of state and we lost contact. I got over my feelings and time moved on. Fast forward a few years later and we reconnect online. Start talking. And then this dude casually mentions in a conversation about how Faye had a giant crush on me growing up and always wanted to ask me out. He tells me that he even asked my mother for permission to ask me out and she said no, so he never ended up doing it. My mom never told me about this at all. My mind is blown. My entire childhood of pining after this guy, my first ever crush, feels LKELI. At this point I'd long since put aside the feelings I had for him and kinda gotten over the crush, but I still felt a lot of residual nostalgia from being 15 and craving dick for the first time in my life. He was still into me and I was debating whether I wanted to start something with him or not. Mostly so I wouldn't have to live with the what if of it all. Tossing the idea around while we kept in touch. Then suddenly he stops messaging me. I'm like 72? Because our talking was going well and I didn't think I did anything to make him want to start ghosting me. I message a mutual friend of ours and ask if she knows what's up, and she tells me the guy was arrested for beating a dude who owed him money to death. He's in prison right now serving a life sentence. I never got that dick. The end. Not a plot twist per se. But I met a guy online a few years ago and we started hanging out and became good friends. In 2016 he got a Facebook message from a young man telling him that he was his father. He gave his mother's name and sure enough my friend had slept with her a few times around when he would have been conceived. He showed me the young guy's Facebook page and there was a picture of his mother, who looked very familiar to me. I looked at her profile. And sure enough, it was my best friend from high school older sister. She had a KICL when she was 16 and he lived with my best friend for a couple of years and I would babysit him quite a bit. I have about half a dozen photos of me with him when he was a baby. First roommate in college was super Catholic and did not approve of my older BF. As an attempt to save me, she thought of inviting me to her friend's celibacy celebration while I was doing whorework in the Commons. A chill wind picked up and I sensed it was time for me to leave. As I turned around I saw the only doorway blocked by a circle of people holding hands and quietly chanting, "No sex until 30. No sex until 30. As I approached to try to break through the circle and GTFO their chanting got louder. I eventually got out, but this chick threw away all of my high-end sex toys and Suicide Girl book. I was done with living with her and got out after just a quarter. Over a year later, a few friends and I were comparing horror stories about roommates we have had and I shared my story. A new friend told hers about a super noisily masturbating lesbian. None of the others had much to say, so they voted between the BVO. Mine won by a small margin only to find out both of our stories were about the same roommate, just 1 year apart. Oh, also, she did not throw out my sex toys or my Suicide Girl book. My uncle went through a bad divorce a few years ago when his then-wife came out as a lesbian and left him for a warning. He was extremely heartbroken and devastated. Then a few years after that, he revealed that not only was he gay, but he had serious boyfriend the entire time he was married. The reason the divorce hit him so hard was because she was able to finally be honest about who she was. But he didn't think our conservative Catholic family would accept him when he finally did come out, though the general family reaction was, "Ooh, that explains a lot." I have a very close girlfriend. Everybody in college assumed we were a couple. Plot twist number 1, I came out as gay. Plot twist number 2, she came out as a lesbian 2 years later. None of us had any idea the other was gay before we each left our closet.